So today we have here Hugo Silva. He's a known researcher and also Chief Innovation Officer at Flux Wireless Biosignals. So welcome, Hugo. I'd like to ask you, many people here already know a bit about you, but for the ones who don't, maybe you could introduce yourself a little and what was your story and how did you actually end up here?
Okay, so I am a researcher in the field of biosignal acquisition and processing. I started working in this field in 2003, so almost 15 years now that I'm working in this area, and ranging from the actual data acquisition and also making sense out of that data, so extracting features and doing machine learning on top of that. And the reason why we started was because there were a lot of problems to solve. So these technologies were mostly bound to a hospital setting, to a clinical setting, and there were a lot of problems associated with that. And with the world being increasingly open and with these signals being quite transversal to many areas, we started to get more requests from HCI, from behavioral analysis and things like that. And so that's how I started in this area, developing tools to make these signals more human-friendly in a way.
Because that's what I was going to ask, like before the physiological data has actually evolved into something completely different to what it is right now. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it started from the health science, as you were mentioning.
Yeah, exactly. So these things were mostly applied initially to healthcare, so diagnostics, to health monitoring at specific settings. There were some applications in the ambulatory as well, so people could go home with a monitor so that they could get their health checked. But quickly this became much more pervasive, and today you see wearables that can measure some physiological data from your interaction with some experiences. We've done a lot of work also in museums, in more ecological settings, and that brought a whole new set of challenges with it. So once you put people moving using these sensors, you get all this kind of noise that you have to deal with. You have to make sense out of the data on a context-free perspective. So when you have people neatly set up in a lab, you know exactly what they're doing. But once you put these things out, there's a whole new set of problems that comes together with that.
Yeah, I agree. So also, like in the recent years, the use of biosignals has kind of gained interest amongst international artistic community, as well as performers and composers who use biosignals to actually control and produce sound, in a way. And as I've heard that you're also going to be organizing a workshop about making noise with biosignals, which is tomorrow.
Exactly.
Could you please tell us a bit more about this?
Yeah, for sure. So artists are always very creative, and so they are always on the look for new things that they can enhance their performance. And we actually have a fairly big community using these technologies for that purpose. And one of the issues is that many times people see these things as hard to use, and so the workshop tomorrow will be focused on showing them how it's currently which is really rather simple to use, and also demonstrating that the signals are not that difficult to handle if you know just a couple of details to unlock the initial steps in the field. And tomorrow the workshop is a free workshop, so anyone can attend. It has limited vacancy, but we will cover aspects from which signals you can acquire, how you can work with those signals, how you can do simple things like detecting when a muscle activates or specific actions that can be detected from the signals, and to really show people how easy this can be done. So the workshop tomorrow will be focused on that, and mainly on the physiological part, because your body, you use your body as an interface already in many different contexts. So you have the interfacing with the mobile phone, that's your body being used as an interface. You have the Microsoft Kinect, you have the Leap Motion, you have all of these controllers that make your body act as an interface. But tomorrow in the workshop we will explore one side which is often neglected, which is what's going inside your body. So your brain is working all the time, your muscles are working all the time, your breathing, your heart also has some information that you can extract. And so the workshop tomorrow will actually be more focused around those signals.
Okay, so also like, since we have all this data, like we have a lot of different parameters, so much data we can acquire, how creative can we get with all of this? What are the possibilities? What does the future hold?
I mean, we see physiological sensing being integrated everywhere as a part of our normal activities. There were a few practical challenges, like when you start looking into these signals, normally you would need sticky pads, you would need a lot of specific sensor positioning, you would need a lot of procedures that make these things kind of cumbersome to use on a broader perspective. These things are changing. Even today, you have wrist-worn devices that can measure multiple of these signals without these type of constraints. And so what we have been working on in the community at large is really solving the technical side of things to make the signals usable in a more broader perspective. And this includes things like why do you need to put a sensor on your body if you can have the sensor in an object that you interact with? So some of the latest research that we've been doing is on what we call off-the-person sensing. We started by the ECG, and normally the ECG is a signal that you go to the hospital, people fill you with gel all over the body, you have to have, I don't know how many cables attached to you, and so you cannot convince an artist to use this in a performance quite easily. So what we've been doing is integrating the sensors on a computer keyboard, on a mobile phone, on objects that people normally interact, and without changing the way that they interact with these devices, capturing the same information or an equivalent information. So that's kind of the trend, making these signals more pervasive, alleviating the challenges that come with this. So once you put the sensors on an object, you have problems like who is the person interacting with that object. Yeah. So one of the things that we've been doing is using these signals to identify the person. So we've done some work on using the ECG almost like a fingerprint that you can detect different users just by that signal.
So is it possible to actually detect specific?
We have studies on small populations that show that, for example, between the attendees here at the World Usability Day, you could detect all of them with greater than 90% accuracy. So our hearts are slightly different. Then another thing is, when you have the sensor on you, the sensor is always there, and so you have some noise, but it's not the same as an object where you have your hands, you take it out, and then you put it again, and so you have all this noise that for people that only want the features, only want to have something that is usable, that they don't have to deal with that. So we've been working on that front as well. And then another thing is making sense out of the data. So okay, I have heart signals available all the time. What can I do with that? How can I use them to infer the state of the person? And so these are kind of the challenges that we've been solving and that are making these technologies more widespread and available for everyone.
Okay, so thank you, Hugo. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you.
Thank you for informing us and giving your ideas and opinions on this field.
Thanks a lot. I'm glad to be here as well. Thanks.
So in a few minutes, we will have our other interviewers, and so stay tuned.